guest today on the Impact Effect podcast. Celeste Leon is joining us. And as you know, before we dive into anything, the first question we ask all our guests are, what does impact mean to you? And how do you show up in the world and create impact today?
Great question. And hi, Jim. I'm really excited to be here. We're going to make this a fun time and hopefully give your audience a lot of value. So when I hear that question, what does impact mean to you? My thoughts automatically go to micro instead of macro, because impact, right, we're thinking like the world, changing the world. But to me, it reminds me of this quote by Gandhi. It's very popular. I'm sure you've all heard it before, which is, be the change you wish to see in the world.
I love
so
that.
Rather than starting with focusing on how can I change everybody else, to me, the journey began inward.
I love it.
Can I change myself in order to make an impact around each other? And if you have kids, I know you have kids, for those who have children or just they're around children, you could tell them what to do all day long, but they're going to do what you do, not what you say, right? So people will copy your actions all day, every day over the words that you say. So that's number one. That became really clear to me, even as a child myself, right? Like looking at my parents telling me what to do, and then I would just copy what they would do. So when
it's almost like working inward to help outward.
100%.
I love that. No one's actually brought that up when I've asked this question.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to explore deeper. Yeah.
I love that. And to me, it began also during college, right? I went to college at Monmouth University in the Jersey Shore, and I was very self-motivated back then, right? I had a few side jobs. I went to school full-time, taking 18 credits. I was also a party girl, so to me, I always wanted to be the balance of how can I have fun but excel in life.
Of course.
To me, that was always important. So my girlfriends around me, they would see me going to school and coming back and getting straight A's. But I would party on the weekends with them. We would go, drinking, partying. And then I would also have side jobs. And I would wake up early with a lot of energy and go to the gym and take care of my health and cook. And I wasn't telling anybody, hey, copy me, do what I'm doing. But it was interesting because then I began noticing the change in themselves.
Yeah.
They started to get more motivated to go to the gym. They started to get their studies more seriously. They realized they could do whatever they set their mind to. Again, I didn't have to tell them. I just did it. So then they started doing it with me.
Set the example.
Right. And then I realized, right, going back to that, if I want to impact others, I don't need to tell them what to do. I need to do it myself. And that has been something then that has driven me throughout this point of how I go about my life and what I do.
Totally. I love it. It's it reminds me when I talk about human connection of building relationships, right? And you have to build the relationship with yourself first.
Yes.
And so, the impact you're talking about is working on the inside for the external output. And it's exactly what is important in human connection, what I talk about all the time. And it's the same concept, because at the end of the day, if I'm battling something, how am I showing up best to serve others? And usually there's that breaking point of, oh, okay, I need to make some of these changes. And then all of a sudden good things happen in business.
Exactly.
And I think with what you're saying is focus on yourself, do what you can, be a better version of yourself, and you'll attract folks to be a better version of themselves as well.
Absolutely.
True impact.
That's exactly it. And
I love it.
I was recently, I'm coaching a few amazing women, and she asked me also, hey, how can I surround myself with better people? Because as she's leveling up in her own life, she's realizing, well, if I'm too confident here, it intimidates others. Or if I'm too much here, people who are not trying to grow themselves don't like it.
Yeah.
They do not like that, sadly. So she, one of the things I tell her is surround yourself with people who will empower you, who will support that growth within yourself. And then she asked me, right, okay, how do I do that? And number one is talking about your conference, right? you need to go to places where you can find people who are on that similar journey.
Yep.
They don't necessarily need to, you don't necessarily need to have the same exact career. You don't necessarily need to have the same exact end goal. But as long as you're trying to better yourself, that is like the most basic level of support and growth that you want to be around someone, right? Because if I come and tell you a win, you're going to be like, hell yeah, I love that for you, Celeste, right? Versus if you tell someone a win and they're like, oh, that's cool, and the support's not there, you realize like, oh,
there's no alignment.
I know,
There's
yes.
no alignment, and I 100%, like, you hit such a good point, because I've found this in my life several times where, you know, I do something and I have a conversation that's amazing with someone, and they're like, go for it, and you know, you're creating these small wins, and don't beat yourself up because this didn't happen, look at all this. And it's like, wow, empowering and motivating, and
Yes.
like, I can run through a wall. And then I've gone from that meeting to a meeting with someone else, and it was the complete opposite. And there was jealousy involved. There was living a more comfortable life, and the what ifs. What if this happened? And what if this doesn't go right? And I think though, just that situation in the same day, in an hour and a half, I went from feeling empowered and motivated, and you know, I can run through a wall, to deflated and emotional and negative, and just there was just this blockage of flow. So I've experienced it both in one setting and another, almost immediately after each other, and all I can say is, wow, like, it is impactful to be around the right people, have those experiences, and be able to talk about similar things at a similar level. Like, one of the things that I changed a couple years ago was just, I don't want to be around people who say no to everything, and you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
What about the person? I want to be around the person that says, hey, well, actually, that problem existed with this person I know, even though it may be a different industry and they're in a different state. Like, let me set y'all up for a quick phone call. Let me do the text right now, rather than, oh, you can't do that. Why would you do that? Or yeah, have fun and
Good luck.
good
Like,
luck.
figure it out.
Good
Right.
luck. Yes, that is a great. There's a lot of people that used to say good luck in my life, and now that's turned into, how can I help?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're solution oriented, and that's what is
Exactly.
awesome. Absolutely. And I'm sure there's many people who can relate to what you're saying, of having people where you go to them, you're telling them your idea, they're supportive, they're empowering you, and then there's other people that are just saying, what if? What if this goes wrong? Just trying to look for every reason of why maybe it wouldn't work out. And what I've learned about that, Jim, is that it's actually not about you. It's more about them.
Yeah.
And the reason why they're telling you that is because that's how they live their life, and that's how their thought processes go when they have an idea. So for those who do experience that, don't take it personally. I try to remind myself, because they're just reflecting how they live their own lives.
Yeah.
And be empathetic, and know that if they're telling you that, again, it's just their beliefs. That doesn't mean that you cannot do it.
Totally.
That doesn't mean that you cannot find that solution. And that's why, again, it's so important to surround ourselves with people that make us believe that our dreams can actually happen, and not let them just die right there, right? Because the most beautiful things, the most amazing things that have happened in life is the people that went for it and never give up.
Totally. It's one of those things too where, you know, I've had those situations that someone was negative, and I've identified, like, oh, I don't want to be around them as much. And that's a hard thing to navigate, right?
Yes.
I've also had those situations where I've said, okay, I don't want to be around that person, but let me try to talk to them. Let me try to bring them with me.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever experienced that? And has it been successful or not successful, where you've maybe tried to bring that person that you were friends with and you spent a lot of time with, kind of with you, and looking at things differently? Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Many, many times. And I think we all naturally do that, right? We care about someone. We want to see them rise. We want to help them. And it's like, hey, I just did it. Like, come along the ride with me. But ultimately, there's people have their own timeline. So just because it happened to us right now, some people, maybe it's not right now. Maybe it's in a year. Maybe it's in two. And our life stories, our experiences definitely shape that. That's why, again, I go back to, how can I just embody the change that I am?
Yeah.
How can I be the example so that I don't have to tell them? They just see my results.
Yeah.
They just see how I'm growing and what I'm doing. And that's why, right? That's why we have this podcast. That's why we go after our dreams. That's why we put out content that's beneficial to others, showing those lessons. That's how I try to go about it, honestly, with those kind of people. And then I feel them out. Usually then people will come to me and ask me questions. Then I know they're open.
Of course.
So that's something that I'm really big on. When I'm trying to help someone, I examine, well, do they have an open mind to be helped? Then I will help them and I will put more of my energy. Because if someone is closed-minded, and red flag, no, they're not going to be even receptive to my message or to what I'm trying to tell them.
Totally. I think, too, in my experiences, I've had people who didn't want the help, right? And I love how you brought up the timeline, because just because I want to make a change doesn't mean it's the right time for that person to make a change. And I also think that we shouldn't just, 86 that person, or like, oh, they're over there and I can never go over there, right? Because when that time does evolve, and when they do see you embodying that change and getting results and living a life that they want and the lifestyle that they want to indulge in, then that maybe there is an opportunity to help them in that moment. So it's just so important to talk about that timeline, because people change and things change. And you brought up life experiences. And, for me specifically, like, when I was going to get married and have a baby, like, that was a life change for me. And I made massive change very abruptly. And I lost a lot of friends because I wasn't doing the same things or the same activities or going to the same events or, participating in certain sports or things like that. And it wasn't so much that I was upset, because I understood that in my life, I made massive change very quickly. But how do I still keep in touch? How do I still care for those people? And I think we just need to be able to have that awareness and self-identify to make that change, right? Because I could still create impact and help that person, but it may be at a different experience or maybe in a different way. But I don't want to just throw that person to the curb and never talk to them. Have you had an opportunity where it's kind of come back full circle and you've kind of connected again with someone and really helped them and create impact that may not have been the right timing previously?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely think many people, definitely. And I can relate also to your story of life changes, and then you kind of switch between the friend groups because your focus was here and then your focus changes and you realize, oh, we're not necessarily in greatest alignment anymore. But there's those lifelong friends that kind of become family that you want to stay with no matter what. So it's definitely interesting to navigate. But to me, again, is to all my friends, I always tell them, like, I'm here for you. I'm a resource. When you get to a point in life where you think that I can be valuable, like, I'm here for you no matter what. And if there's anything that I can do to help, I hope that I'm very intentional for my friends to know that about me and important. With everything that I do. So, but that's so valid. And those changes are beautiful. They're hard. Losing friends is not easy. And especially, for instance, I moved to Nashville a little bit over a year ago. I moved here without knowing anybody. There were friends that were really upset at me for leaving because we had such a beautiful connection, right? But it was my time to transform and it was my time to try something new. Of course. So how can we support people even as they're changing and we may not see the vision?
True.
Yet.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part to say and sit down and go, is this for the better? And do I try and stop this? No. Does it hurt? Yes. But I still want to let people go and live their life and do their thing and not be that person that holds them back.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
with all this stuff, you know, how you're helping people, you're coaching, your friends, you've made transitions, working on yourself, embodying that change. Like, how did you come about that? Like, obviously, I know you mentioned early on, you wanted to make those changes and you saw people attracting to you, but like, what drives you to make those changes?
Yeah, great question. And that opens up, I think, to tell you a little bit more about my story. And about me, I was born in Peru, and pretty much the first 13 years of my life, my parents and I were moving a lot. So I grew up with constant change, which can definitely be overwhelming.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And talking about not feeling just safe in one spot, but at the same time, it has shaped who I am today. And when I was 13, I moved to the US, which was like my final big move. I also lived in Canada. We moved a lot throughout Peru, where I was born, learning new languages, all the things. And my parents split up when I was around 8 years old. We had just moved back from Canada. So my life changed drastically once again, right? I lived with my father for a few years. Then at 12, 13, that's when my mom was like, okay, now you're going to live with me. We're moving to the United States.
Gotcha.
So when I moved here, I realized, okay, I'm no longer close to my family, which was a huge support system. I need to learn English. But I'm kind of old enough because I'm about to go into high school, right? To know what do I want this to mean? What do I want to do with my life? I no longer have my daddy for protection. So it's really on me to make my choices and where I want to go.
Yeah.
So I learned English within a year. That was my first thing. They need to be able to communicate with people. I want to make sure I have good grades so I can go to, education was really important to me. I wanted to have a great career. And then going to college. I remember the first semester of my college education going to the career services and asking, what do I need to do so that by the time I graduate, I not only have one job offer, but multiple, and I can choose where I want to go, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's always about being intentional about where I wanted to go since I've been young.
Of course.
Being determined, being the hero of my own story, taking me where I want to go. So that is something that is constantly in my mind. And now as I'm continuously to get older, I recently quit corporate to go full-time into my business with coaching, emceeing, speaking, community building, which is one of also what's I'm so passionate about community building. I think
tell us about that. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Another thing about change, right? About impact. We are most motivated by people. When we have people around us, like think about the herd, right? The crews. We see everybody doing something, we want to jump on and do it.
Yep.
So what if, and oftentimes it's more negative, right? People are doing negative things and we jump on the wagon and we want to do that. But what if the community is doing something positive? That's what you're doing, and that's why I'm so glad that we're connected and I can also be your MC for your event and support you, because that's the communities that I love building.
Yep.
My first community that I built was in New Jersey. It was a self-development community for women. I started it right when the pandemic has started. And my vision was all of us, we experience some type of trauma. And especially as women, right, we're told just stay quiet, don't share about it. So I realized a lot of me and my girlfriends, I'm always someone who makes people feel very comfortable. They open up to me all the time. But I realized most of us are just keeping quiet about our struggles. We don't talk about them, and we just pretend we're so happy on
social media
and in life, right? And for me, it was so important to create a community where we could have those conversations about our pain, where we could cry if we needed to, and we could work towards bettering ourselves as we acknowledge our past. Because the most important thing in your story, right, we all have painful moments in our past. And that's probably a huge motivator that drives us forward to be better or to make the changes that we want. But if we're not talking about those hardships, if we have so much shame around them, then you're not liberated by them.
Of course.
Right?
You're not using that to the advantage that you
Right.
can, or the leverage that you actually have.
Yeah. And I would see it in my own grandmothers, right? I would see it and it's so much harder to have that breakthrough at 50, 60, 70. But I had my own breakthrough probably between 18 and 21, where I was acknowledging, okay, here's the great things my parents taught me, here's the bad things my parents taught me. Here I had already begun my self awareness journey, where I had acknowledged, oh, here's how I'm being toxic in my relationships, here's how I have a toxic mindset around men, because I had seen some bad things about men in my early life, and I was attracting bad men because of that.
Of course.
So I was like, how, if I think so badly about this, how can I ever attract something good? I started making those changes again within myself.
Yep, internally.
And more beautiful things came when I made those changes. So I really wanted to create that community of women where we could do that together and be empowering and not be this competition. Because true women who are confident, who level up in life, we collaborate, we don't compete.
I love it.
Right?
Love it.
All
Yep.
of that.
Collaboration over competition.
Collaboration over competition, 100%. So, long story short, right, building my social media, starting to create community there. Since I joined corporate, I was one of the youngest speakers getting on to do speeches for the company, talking to partners about why they should get on social media to sell the firm.
Yep.
The power that I would go to conferences within our company, which we were over 30,000 employees just in the United States. We're a lot bigger internationally. I would go to our conferences and people would come up to me because they all knew me from social media. Like managers, directors, and I'm like this 2 years into the company making an impact, right? So all these things obviously are building my confidence. I'm taking action in what I want. And I'm bringing people along with me, which is the most important part. That drives me so much. Coming obviously from Peru, from a really small town, I realize the privilege that I have to be here right now, to be in the United States, to have the opportunities that I have. And it's on me. Again, we are responsible for our lives. We have the opportunity to get up every day and make things happen. That's why I get out and go network. People are like, how do you already know so many people within 1 year and I've been living in Nashville for 10? Because I get out and take action. I go and meet people. I go and shake hands. I put myself out there, and that's what we all need to do. We could do it through social media. That's a tool. We could do it in person. That's another tool. And again, now I recently created the Nashville Book and Sip Club. I'm the founder for this community in Nashville. I just reached 100 members in my book club itself. We're still growing, about to go into our 4th month.
Nice.
If I can do it, anybody can do it, right? We all say that, and it's just about getting out there, having that vision in your mind. What do you want to create? And setting the tone for what you want. Like, as the founder of Impact Effect, you see the vision, you know how you want to impact people, and now it's about taking action. That's the same thing that I'm doing.
And I think with you too and you do a great job of this, and I think this is the lesson that everybody can listen to, is she moved here from New Jersey and has 100 members in her community after building it a couple months ago. You can do it too, but here's the thing. Celeste shows up to events. Celeste gets on webinars. Celeste goes to networking, goes to co-working spaces, Soho House, gets on podcasts, has her own podcast, interviews people, puts out content, MCs, speaks at events, works with speakers, coaches. Like, it's not just by coincidence. And the real piece here that I want to focus on is the fact that this takes time and energy.
Yes.
And Celeste puts in the time and energy. That's why she's seeing the results. And she's doing that not to boast and brag, but if you've heard the whole conversation is to lift other people up as well. And how she creates that impact is by embodying the change herself and setting the example with the compassion and the empathy to bring those people with her. So you can do this. And it reminds me of myself, Celeste. And it's so amazing because not that I built this amazing community that you built, but people said the same thing to me. How do you go walk around Germantown and run into 5 people? You've lived here for 5 years, 6 years. And I'm like, because I put in a lot of effort and time and energy. Like, when you were tired after working 9 hours, I went to an event for 3 hours and built relationships.
Yes.
And you went home and you ate dinner, and if you had a family, you spent time with family. And I'm not knocking that, right? But I'm just saying there has to be a choice, and those choices create results, or they create negative results, or no results, in fact. And there's sacrifice with that, and there's time, and there's energy. And I think that's the biggest piece that people don't realize is it's not so much just the time, it's the energy that goes into it. Celeste can come to an Impact Effect event and have conversations with everybody, but what's Celeste doing after the event? She's following up, she's liking, and I see her doing it, liking and commenting on social media. And we had an event, and she commented on this, and I'm like, oh, they probably met at the event last night. But like, she's showing up and she's following up. And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to, well, how'd this happen? One, it didn't happen overnight. Two, I put a lot of energy, time, and in some cases, money behind it.
Absolutely. 100%.
You're paying to come to events. You're
Yes.
paying to get into the room. You're going to this seminar or this webinar or this conference, and it costs money, but in
100%.
return, you're getting back relationships, opportunities, collaboration, partnerships, and clients.
Absolutely. 100%.
And that's something that someone asked me just yesterday about the conference, Impact Effect 24. They said, hey, I just bought a ticket. I want to get these clients. I need to sell five people my product. And I said, you're in the wrong room. And they're like, what? This is an expensive event. And I said, if you come to this event and you come in saying you need to sell 5 clients your products or services, and you talk to people the way you're talking to me right now, you're not going to sell anything. Well, this is an expensive conference. I better, is what he said to me. And I said, well, I think that we need to part ways. And I think that you just got a refund for your $700 ticket. And we did this twice last year. And I didn't think we would do it this year, but we just had to do it again. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that person based on our conversation, they're not going to do the follow-up. They're already coming in saying, you owe me something. When we all know that I can go on a stage and have the most influence and tell you to buy something from that person. But if you go talk to them and they turn you off, or they treat you poorly, or talk to you the way that he was talking to me, you're not going to buy it.
Yeah.
So I told them, you're not going to sell it. You're like, don't come. Right? Like, you're not going to sell any products. If that's the only reason why you're coming, you're at the wrong conference. Because at Impact Effect 24, we want everybody to come to seek to serve and help. And if we have a room of curated people that are all there looking to help, then everybody's going to receive.
100%.
And everybody's going to grow together. So it's funny you say that, because that person wasn't embodying the follow-up, the effort, the energy. They said, here's $700. I better get double my money back. And that's just not how this works. So why take that person's money? Because I know what the outcome is going to be. I know who's going to succeed at this conference and who's not going to. I know who's going to walk out the door. We signed someone up yesterday, and I said, you're going to walk out the door with 10 new clients. She's like, what? I said, yeah, I can't guarantee that, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen. But just our conversation, how because I call everybody and I talk to them and ask them questions so I can understand what they need and how we can be most effective and efficient. And she crushed it. She's like, I want to show up and I want to serve and I'm going to help and I'm going to give free consulting on marketing if anybody needs it. And I'm going to offer people to schedule a follow-up with me, and it's free. There's no sales pitch. And I'm just going to dive into their social media and see if we can help with this and that. And I was just like, you're going to do that, and you're going to walk out of here with 10 clients because you make me want to. Okay, can I get one of those sessions?
Yeah, exactly. Right? I couldn't agree more. 100%. It's about that attitude, that intention. And when you just want to take, that definitely impacts how you come off. Like, that's such a great example. And to add to that, a beautiful example I have from your conference.
Last year's conference?
Last year. I go to, I think I was 6 months into Nashville, so still very new, still trying to make my mark, meet people. So I go solo to Impact Effect. I barely know anybody at that point, maybe a couple people. But I just sit at a table by myself, right? I don't know anybody on the table. Obviously, there's breaks in between. So we start sharing, oh, what do you do? Who are you? Blah, blah. I share, oh, I MC events and I do these other things. And the guy next to me, and I wasn't selling myself. I was just, here's what I'm passionate about. I'm so excited to be here. This is what I do. And I started getting to know the guy next to me. At the end, he does share, oh, by the way, I am throwing a gala, an event in a few months. That's great. Awesome. Tell me what it's about. Never did I say, hire me or I'm the perfect person. All I said, well, obviously we connect. Another important thing that I don't see people do is make sure that you're meeting people in more than phone numbers. Personally, that's my advice, is connect on LinkedIn. Why? Because then you can go back to the people you just connected with. You see their picture, you see their name, you see their background. You can follow up, right? And say, hey, it was great to meet you here. Loved learning about you, and because you shared XYZ. If there's anything I could do to serve you, here I am.
Yeah.
I followed up that way. A week later, he reaches out again. He's like, hey, I'm throwing this event. Would love to meet up and see if I can hire you to be my MC.
Let's go. Let's go.
Again, but that's what you just said. Did I sell myself and I said, I need this right now? He needs to. No, not at all. I shared what I am. I was curious about who they were. I asked more questions about them that they ended up asking me. And I followed up. And I tried to build that genuine connection. And now I just went to his 2 daughters' birthday parties with my stepdaughters, right? Talking about building that genuine connection. Totally. And not just being salesy and pushy and being out there. And when you're going into that serving mindset, how can I serve? How can I just get to know you? Even if it doesn't go anywhere and now we're friends, you never know where something can end up. And you're going to get value out of that 100%. There's also people I met that they weren't necessarily great connections, right? There's also people that I met that I was like, okay, I don't see any necessarily there. We still connected. Maybe in the future we'll be. Yeah. But that's so important. And when you're out there, focus, put your energy on how you can give, on how you can be a good energy for others to be around. How can you bring value? Because when you come off that way, people will want you in their circle and in their lives.
Totally. What a great story. I mean, that's it, right? There's no fluff in these conversations. Like, that story is exactly what happens at Impact Effect. And if you do the things like create human connection for the greater good of everybody, not just yourself or what you need, what you need in that moment. All right, last question. This has been amazing, by the way. Thank you, Celeste. But last question for you, Celeste. And I think this is going to be really powerful because a lot of people have asked me this question. I've seen several interviews on it. What do you do when you are tired? When you have gone to an event the night before and it maybe there wasn't any of those good connections? You've worked all day, maybe it's a Thursday, you're tired, and there's an event tonight, or there's a webinar, or there's a get-together. Like, how do you motivate yourself to go and to show up to that when you don't want to? When you're tired, maybe so you just got bad news and a deal fell through, or someone just quit on your team, but you show up and you get yourself there. What's that self-talk look like for you? Or can you share an experience where you may not have wanted to go and kind of got through it and ended up going?
Yeah, that's so powerful. Definitely happens to me at times where I do get, I feel exhausted. I don't want to do something, but a few things that I do. Number one is usually at the beginning of the week or at the beginning of the month, I commit myself to certain things I want to do, right? Which will be So my partner and I, my boyfriend and I, one of the things is we are super networkers. We're proud of that. We push each other to do those things together oftentimes. So
He signed up Celeste at an event for a pitch, and
Yes,
and
oh
she
my
didn't
God.
even know. I'm like, power couple right there. Let's go.
Exactly. So one of the things we tell ourselves is, okay, we would like to go to at least 5 networking events a month. So, right, that's a commitment I'm making. It's on me to figure out when and what time.
Yep.
So that would be one thing, right? Have an agreement with yourself of what you want to accomplish. If you could do 4, at least, again, you're still moving forward, right? You're still getting that check. The other thing is, I do take time for myself to recharge. When I have gone to 4 events back to back in 1 week, I am like, I need a break, and I need to go inward, and I need to surround myself with my loved ones to lift my energy back up, to journal, to read, to watch that show. It's okay to take time for yourself, but don't get rid of your momentum.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, momentum is
Yes.
powerful.
Because when you're going, but then you stop, it's harder to get back up if you stop for too long. So learn your own balance. For me, I think about how can I continuously keep my energy high. I'm not sure what it is for you, but find that thing that keeps you going. And mindset work. Yep. What you're telling yourself, what you're repeating to yourself is going to have a direct impact on your energy and your actions. So making sure that you're setting the tone. Again, you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to be like, Jim, let's go. Get out of the funk. We're going to the gym. We're going to that event. Put yourself in the right communities who empower you to do that versus just staying comfortable. Because that is the easy thing to do. Yeah. To just stay comfortable and watch that Netflix show. It is harder to get up and do the thing. So how can you continuously not be perfect, but again, one step forward, that's what matters.
Boom. You heard it yourself. Let's go. Let's go. Well, thank you so much, Celeste. I appreciate joining us today. And it's just been a very impactful conversation. And I'm sure listeners will agree. You know, it's so important to look inward in order to look outward. And I just love how you embody that change and attract those people to do similar stuff. So thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Jim. It has been amazing. Go get it, guys. And I hope to see you at Impact Effect 2024. Till next time.